Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Health Babes podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Becky Campbell with Dr. Crystal Hone. Today, we have my friend Ashleigh Vanhouten on the show. Ashleigh is an author of two books. One is called It Takes Guts, and the other is Carnivore-ish. She also is certified and does so much training with, women building muscle and strength training. And we talked a lot about women's training specifically in this episode, how women doing strength training differs from men doing strength training, mistakes people make when trying to lose weight. And then we shifted into some things like organ meats, the benefits of eating organ meats, how to eat organ meats that doesn't taste bad, and why protein is really important for women. So I hope you love this episode. Everyone, let's welcome my friend Ashleigh to the show. Ashleigh and I go way back. Your podcast back in the day, Ashleigh, was the first podcast I ever did.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was my first
tell me that.
I know. I was so nervous. I remember I was doing like jumping jacks and trying to get the nerves out. And this is for when I did my thyroid book. And yeah, was when you're doing the Paleo magazine, right?
Well, you did a great job. I would never have known it was your first time. So well done.
Thanks.
I hope I didn't scare you too much, but
you're just so smart and you're so well spoken. And I was a little nervous, but you're great. I mean, Ashleigh has been on so many podcasts. She's been the host of many podcasts. Yeah. So what's your podcast now?
Yeah, some would say I've been involved in too many podcasts, and that person is me. But anyway, currently the podcast that I'm co-hosting, it's called Muscle Science for Women, and it was originally my own podcast. I brought in my business partner and my friend to co-host because, as I was saying offline, I was getting a little bit of podcast host fatigue, from doing this for almost 7 years now. So I brought on my friends so that we could kind of just have a little bit more like fun with it, banter, like how it is. Yeah. When you've got somebody else with you, it's just more fun, right? And and we've really kind of started to hone in that the topic is, of course, everyone is welcome. We've got a lot of male listeners, which makes me happy, but it's really about sort of just making women the priority in the conversation around wellness and fitness, because one of the things that I experienced being sort of in this industry for a really long time, kind of being a meathead and somebody who always liked to work out and build muscle from a young age, that I was really trying to learn a lot from resources that aren't bad, but they weren't made with me in mind. Yeah. And so really one of the kind of core pieces of my work right now is to just be a part of this conversation with women's desires and challenges and physiology in mind. And that's sort of the podcast, and then how the strength training program came along and all that stuff.
Yeah. And her strength training program is called Muscle Science for Women, the same name as the podcast. So let's get into that a little bit. So let's talk about men and women and the way we strength train. Like, should it be different? Do men do things differently than women? And if so, why?
I mean, so I could go down just like so many rabbit holes here. So just feel free to please stop me if I get moving too quick. But I've always found it interesting when we're talking about strength training or muscle building, which they're not the same thing, but they often go hand in hand. When it comes to women, there's like this two-sided coin here, where one side, we're telling women that they are different from men. And so they need to train differently, eat differently. Their goals should be different. They should want different things because you're a woman and you want to maintain femininity and all this stuff. And so there's that side. And then there's the side where, we're telling them, do exactly what men do. Here's all the research and data that we've gathered over decades of research. It's all been male subjects and sort of male focused stuff. Just apply it to yourself and see where it goes, right? The reality is we are different physiologically from men. We're very similar in a lot of ways. So there are things where we should train just like men. And there are times when we should train differently, and we need to know the difference. But that nuance kind of isn't out there. It's either like one side or the other, like just do what the dudes do and hope for the best. And if it doesn't work, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Or you're completely different. You need, lighter weights and higher reps. You need to eat less food, you need to do more cardio, whatever, because our bodies are different. And God forbid we lift heavy weights and look masculine or whatever. So I can understand why people are confused because they don't. And this is why, we have whole generations of women growing up thinking that like the key is just diet, eat less, move more. And eventually you're going to get this body that you want. There's so much confusion. And so what we really try to do with this Muscle Science for Women program is show you the ways in which we are all human. Muscle is muscle. Here are the basic foundational tenets of building strength and muscle that apply to everyone. So it applies to you too. And then here are the sort of the nuance that doesn't get talked about. How women are different, how our cycles and our hormones come into play, how
Yes.
culture is such a huge thing. We don't talk about this. Culture, semantics, the things women are taught, the things women are shown, even if it's sort of like subtly and subconsciously, that affect how women want to train and eat and gain strength and muscle, right? It's such a huge part of it. Like, I'm sure you know this in your practice and in your work, but with me in my coaching practice, so much of it is sort of like psychology of fitness and body image and what you want to get out of your strength training journey, right? So anyway, that's a very like convoluted answer, but there are ways in which we're the same and we need to explore those. And then there are ways in which we're different and we need to respect and understand that as well. And so do the coaches who are training women.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's just funny too, because, and I mean, we know this, we hear this all the time, how women think, oh, I'm going to, if I lift heavy weight, I'm going to be real bulky. And boy, are you wrong. It is very hard to get like that.
Nobody gets bulky accidentally. Dudes don't
Yeah.
get bulky accidentally, and they have it way easier than we do. They still have to work incredibly hard,
Yeah.
right? But I guess the other side of that conversation too is that this is where the culture part comes in. It's the worst thing imaginable that a woman would get bulky, quote unquote,
Right.
that we would get bigger or need like a bigger clothing size or that our arms would look bigger or whatever. Why is that the worst possible outcome? Would the worst possible outcome instead maybe be like, I don't know, injury or sickness or overtraining, or that you're doing it ineffectively and you don't have any improvement? Why is the worst thing that you'd walk into the gym and just suddenly stumble upon huge muscles that just appear out of nowhere, So that's sort of the cultural part that you want to kind of talk about and bring to light too, why that's just such a terrifying outcome for so many women, the idea of getting bigger. And this is where, the idea of building muscle is still so challenging for a lot of women. And it's funny that this is still such a big part of the conversation in 2023, when more women than ever are working out and going to the gym and trying to build muscle. And if you're in that community, you might think like, this isn't a problem anymore. Like, women are cool with being strong. They're cool with building muscle and getting bigger, bigger muscles, whatever. But in my coaching practice, it's still an extremely common challenge that women come to me saying, I want to lose weight and build muscle. And the way they have tried to do that is by eating not very much and exercising way too much.
A lot of cardio.
And again, I feel like it comes down to like a lack of understanding of how our bodies actually work. Like, if you kind of like just bring it down to this basic level of building muscle is literally creating new tissue. You're creating new tissue on your body. And how you can expect to do that by under eating, like eating less than what you need to function on a daily basis, and then running yourself ragged with cardio, and then you expect to like go to sleep and the next morning like some muscle has been added to your body, like it doesn't make any sense. But we're working with such a fear of getting bigger. And so, I'll have clients who maybe will finally kind of embrace the discomfort of like, maybe you need to eat more, maybe you need to do a little bit less cardio. And if there's a half a pound added to the scale, or if they feel in any way like their size is getting bigger, even if it's kind of like imagined, that's such a scary thing. And I hope that we can start to undo that a little bit by just taking some of the emotion away from it and add more education and sort of pragmatism to it. Like, if you want to have this toned body that you're saying you want, which means muscle, and then whatever body fat percentage will allow you to see that muscle, you're going to have to be okay with maybe adding weight to the scale.
Yeah.
Maybe even you need to, I don't know, go up a pant size. Maybe not. You might have to eat more. And it takes a long time to undo a lifetime of being taught that you should do the opposite,
It's so true, because your women specifically tend to want to be thin. But that doesn't always match up with health. A lot of the times
Yeah.
it doesn't. I mean, I've always tried for muscle. I mean, since I was 17, I've been in the gym lifting weights and always loved, a muscular woman, not overwhelmingly, and, but just looking strong. I love that look. That's the type of body I've always looked at and admired and aimed for, and just wanting to be strong. I felt like that made me feel good. It made me feel healthy. And yeah, one thing I can say, and this is what I tell a lot of my patients who struggle with weight, the wanting to lose weight and getting upset about it, is I just don't weigh I have no idea how much I weigh. I literally couldn't tell you how much I weigh, because it doesn't matter. As long as if I'm doing what I know I need to do, I'm exercising, I feel good. That's what matters to me. And the scale can really mess with you psychologically. I mean, really, you can feel really good and then get on the scale and go, oh my gosh. But people don't realize some people weigh 170 and their bodies are beautiful, strong, and they're on the thinner side still, but muscle weighs, it has weight to it.
Yes.
So,
and body types carry weight differently. Like I've
yeah.
used this example. I'm glad you said this, because I've used this example oftentimes. If we want to just be straight, sort of aesthetic and surface level about it, like I competed in bodybuilding for years. And I use this example of, like, if I posted a picture of myself on Instagram when I was competing and I was very lean and I had a visible six pack, like all this, like very fit, lean looking. And people, you get the likes, you get the little dopamine hit. People say, oh, you look so fantastic. And then if I posted this and said, in this picture, I weigh 170 pounds.
Right.
Or I weigh 150 pounds. Or I weigh 130 pounds. Would the reaction be, oh, you weigh 170 pounds in that picture? That's not impressive anymore. That's gross. You're big, whatever. No, you look good. You're fit. It doesn't matter. The number on the scale literally only matters to you. It only matters to you. It's an arbitrary number. And it can be used for, I guess, like progress, like benchmarking, like, if you're in a period of trying to track and mindfulness, like that's a whole other kind of conversation, because it can go so wrong for people. It can also be a really valuable data gathering tool. But again, if we can just work to try to remove so much of the sense of like self-worth, so much of our sense of like identity and whether we're good or bad or desirable or not based on numbers that literally don't mean anything aside from like one point of data, it just doesn't matter. And I still have clients who, they'll weigh themselves and they'll feel good because they're 0.5 of a pound down from yesterday. And I don't want to be the one to tell them, like, that doesn't matter. That number literally doesn't matter. Whether it's good or bad, your weight will fluctuate pounds in a day, depending on what you ate, how hydrated you are. Water, what time of the month it is for you. Like, these numbers just don't matter. It's maybe gradually over time if you're looking to either build mass or lose body fat, but like, it just, we waste so much mental energy on things that don't matter when we should be thinking about it. Again, if you want to be aesthetic about it, take pictures. If you want, you don't have to share them with anybody, but take pictures or see how your pants fit in a couple months after you do this training program or you change your diet. But like,
and they might be tighter, like you said, like when
but if they look better.
Yeah. Like when I started really focus, I was doing a program and I added this like glute part. So they had me doing 3 days a week of full body training. And then they call them trigger sessions in between. So the other days I was doing just glutes, like 3 glute exercises, and my butt got big. I have like a booty, like I have a bubble butt. And I had to go up a size in jeans, but I was like, but my butt's bigger, so I don't care,
It's a win.
Yeah. And so it's all relative. And also that number 170, I don't want anyone to feel upset about a number. We're literally throwing a number out there. And the reason that number came to me is because I saw on Instagram someone put 170 is the new 130. Point being, 170, if you're however tall, 5'5", however tall you are, that you can look amazing. It's about putting on that muscle and what muscle does for your body and for your health. So,
Yep.
So what about women who, try to lose weight? They're wanting to lose some of the fat. And even if they're building muscle, they're wanting to lose some of the fat. What are some mistakes that people make when they're trying to do that?
Well, I mean, again, I think some of it comes down to sort of semantics and understanding, because almost every client I have says they want to lose a little bit of weight. And, and again, because this is so subjective to a certain point, like I've had clients where in my head, I'm like, you absolutely do not need to lose any, like you're already lean, you're very fit looking, you're very healthy, but a lot of people want to lose weight because they want to look toned. And a lot of people still don't understand that this term toned, which again is a very gendered term. Rachel and I have so many like fun sessions joking about this term, because do you ever hear anyone talk about a fit muscular guy as being toned?
Never.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because that's only appropriate for women who don't want to be jacked and buff and huge and ripped, which I do, you do, like we're the same. We've been working out since we were 16. But anyway, people don't kind of understand the concept that to hit the body composition that most women, in my experience, are really looking for, especially if you're in the gym working out, it's not just about losing fat. It's about building this healthy muscle that not only will help your longevity, keep you, minimize your risk of injury, make you strong, make you be able to do things that you like to do in your life. But it also means that when you lose a couple pounds of body fat, you have that sort of desirable toned look that you want. It sucks when I've had clients who have done this on their own time that have kind of worked really, really hard to lose weight, only to be a smaller size or less weight on the scale and still not like the way they look, because they haven't prioritized the more important part, which is building muscle and like having that sort of strong foundation. So again, this is very individual. There may be some folks who do have a significant amount of body fat to lose. And in that case, I would still probably give them the same advice that I give most of my clients, which is just try to like do a lot of low level, low impact movement, like walking, biking, swimming, like going for hikes with your friends, like that kind of low impact stuff that isn't going to really kind of burn you out, and eat enough protein. And we can go down that road too. But I tell most of my clients who again are within a healthy range of body fat, who really that's not necessarily where their priority should lie immediately. It should be more about, let's figure out, are you eating enough food? Are you eating enough protein? Are you eating the foods that are supporting the goals that you have and the life that you live? And then let's focus on the hard work of building this muscle, which is a very metabolically active tissue that's going to help you burn more fat. It's going to make you look better at the body fat level that you are. That's another thing that was really a revelation for me. I don't know if you've had this experience, but like I think I look better at my age, my late 30s. I think I look better at a heavier weight than I did a decade ago at a lighter weight, because I've built this muscle so that it looks better if I have a little bit of extra body fat, like it looks okay because I've got this muscle that I like that makes me feel good. Right. So it's so good to have muscle for almost every reason: for your health, for your fitness, for your ability to do the things you want to do and the sports you want to do, and to look good. And then there's the byproduct of, you've been working so hard in the gym, you've been eating this protein, you've been doing all these great, strength supporting things, and you've lost a couple pounds in the process of fat, because you're doing all this hard work and you're eating the right things. So for me, it's really more, and for my clients, it's more of kind of like a reshifting of the sort of priorities, because we tend to want to do all of these things at once, which means we're kind of doing none of them very well, instead of, okay, let's take 3-6 months and like really prioritize building muscle, and then see how you feel then. See if you still want to lose some weight, or see if you still want to, and they may feel differently after that.
Listen, guys, we get it. Not everyone has the time, money, or the capability to commit to finding and working with a functional medicine doctor. And guess what? That's okay. You can improve your health, and you can alleviate your symptoms in a different way, a much more convenient way. So head over to healthbabes.com/courses and check out our Functional Medicine at Home programs. In those programs, you'll get everything you need to start thriving, feeling, and looking your best today. If you use the code HEALTHBABES50, you'll save $50 off the course. And this promotion is exclusively for our podcast peeps. They usually don't. And also, feeling differently is a key word, because your adrenal glands don't like when you don't eat a lot and do a lot of cardio at all. And you're not going to sleep well. You're not going to feel well. And right after my divorce, I just got skinny. Like, it wasn't intentional. I wasn't eating differently, but I wasn't hungry. So it was hard to eat as much as I should have been, but I was still eating, I eat mostly proteins, just the way I've always been. And I wasn't doing weight training. I was like doing some cardio more for like stress,
Yep.
and I was so skinny, and I didn't really realize it. I didn't really see it, but, and then I started doing, wasn't really stressed out anymore. I was starting eating more again and started doing weight training. And I posted on Instagram, like, it's way back, but I did not see how I looked. And I have a picture of me really thin, and then a picture of me, what I look like now. And the difference, and some women probably would be like, oh, I'll take the picture on the before, because a lot of people want to be skinny, especially with the Ozempic and everything going around right now. But for me, I'm like, no way, that girl was struggling, that girl did not feel well. and I don't think I looked well. I see that. I didn't like that. So
Are you seeing a lot of Ozempic use like in real life? Like, I was just talking about this on my own podcast with Rachel, and sometimes when you see a lot of media clickbait stuff on like social media and stuff, you tend to think like, oh, I guess this is the new thing. But like, are a lot of people using it? Yeah,
they are, or talking about it, or wanting to
yeah,
use it, or asking about me, asking my patients were even asking me about it. And I'm like, that's one thing I'm never going to tell you to do, just because I don't believe, well, first of all, it's for diabetes, you know what I mean? Like, and many people are actually, their blood sugar can run low, especially people that I work with. And I'm like, I would not recommend that. And I just don't like off-label stuff like that typically. And I can see there are some people, like, they've literally tried everything. They do everything perfect. They cannot lose weight. That might be a different scenario. But when it's just like kind of like an obsession, or, because the Kardashians are now skinny, everyone wants to be skinny. I'm not going to be like, yeah, you should do that. I'm going to be like, let's be healthy.
And I guess it's like similar to, I mean, I don't know enough about Ozempic, but similar to like clients who will come to me and ask me about like the nuances of like different types of fasting or different types of work and stuff. And I'm just like, all of that stuff, it's like potential tweaks or whatever, but like that's at the top of the pyramid. Like, can I get you to eat enough protein first? Like, can I get you to sleep? Can I get you to like think about managing your stress, which has such a dramatic impact on our hormones and how we are able to function and maintain our healthy body weight? Like, there are so many foundational things that we want to, we should perfect or try to perfect first, but it's human nature, right? We want to do this like, oh, but this shiny new thing that could like be really quick and easy and could help me. And I mean, it always kind of backfires if you don't have the foundation in place first, right?
It's so true. Laying that foundation, it's like everything. It really is. Yeah, it is. Well, let's talk about, I want to talk about organ meats, because this is something that we haven't really talked on the show, except for we bring it up because we know they're great for you, but we've never had someone really come on and kind of break it down. So you have a book called It Takes Guts, and you talk about eating nose to tail. So can you kind of explain, like, what is that and why is it important?
Yeah. Thank you for letting me talk about it. I know that it's still, even in the very like pro animal protein omnivore kind of community, I still feel like it's a little bit niche. So I appreciate that you speak positively about it, because it is, I think, a really important part of nutrition that a lot of us are lacking. And ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter what sort of trends come out, the majority of us in North America and elsewhere in the world eat meat, right? Whether we eat a little or a lot or mostly seafood or whatever, most of us are accepting that we're omnivores, that we are animals that benefit from eating animal protein. And if we've accepted that fact, we need to then take the next step of like, how can we do this in a way that is the most ethical, sustainable, healthy, enjoyable, reasonable way possible, right?
Mhm.
And I come from, like, we talked together when I was the host of Paleo magazine, so I come from a really like ancestral health background, like very
Same.
much, right, very much the approach of like, what's our body designed to do? That's why I'm always like, I feel like I'm like this late adopter to like new technologies or things, because I'm just like, I don't want the newfangled stuff. I guess that means I'm like getting old. I'm like, I don't want this tracking device. Like, just give me a steak. Like, it's fine. I don't need all that extra stuff. But anyway, so, as I was like learning about how our bodies are, optimized to eat different types of foods and how to kind of find the diet that is ideal for you, because even within carnivore, paleo, normal eating, whatever you want to call it, our plates will still look different. Your plate's going to look different than mine because of our goals and our backgrounds and maybe different things that we're dealing with. But I was starting to kind of delve into the real like nose to tail eating the whole animal concept, and the idea that, again, if we're going to have these animals die for us to eat them, let's do this in a way that is sustainable, honoring the animal, that is making the least amount of waste, and that is also the most nutritious for us. And the reality is, organ meats are the most nutrient dense parts of the animal. And it's really only recently in sort of Western culture that it's fallen out of favor, that it's become this sort of gross, extreme thing. It used to be the prized parts of an animal. The muscle meat was kind of what was left over. But part of sort of the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution and people just sort of mass producing food, and then sort of the advent of really overly processed food, we have become used to stuff tasting very sort of like bland and simple, and organ meats were a little bit maybe more delicate and took a little bit more work, and so they kind of fell out of favor. But they are really, really, really healthy, ounce for ounce. So if you're even trying to eat less meat, but you still want to eat it because it's beneficial, organ meats is the way to go. Today, the economy today, things are getting more expensive every day. Food's getting more expensive every day. Organ meats are all generally still going to be the less expensive
Yeah.
cut. And I just found too, like when I started experimenting with this, I've always been an adventurous eater. That was just an area that I found like fun to explore. And I always looked at it like, if you try something and you don't like it, you're right back where you started. But if you try a new cuisine or a new cultural dish or a new whatever and you like it, like you've opened up kind of a new door for yourself. And when I started eating things like liver, I noticed a boost in my health that like I didn't even really realize I needed, like, because I've always eaten kind of whole foods and my health has been pretty good. And then I started eating liver regularly and I'm like, I feel like I'm supercharged. Like it really,
It's like the best multivitamin ever.
I mean, truly. And I surprised myself because, there's so many sort of these kind of like biohacking things out there that like, you wonder how much of it is placebo effect. Like I feel better because I think I should feel better,
Right.
and I spent so much money on this, I better feel better. But, so I just felt really strongly about it. So I started playing around with it and I started posting on social media, and like people were like giving me like the vomit emojis and like, what are you doing? But some people were like, hey, what are you making over there? Like, how do you make this stuff? And I started thinking like, okay, there's maybe a small niche here of folks who would be interested in this, would be open to it. It doesn't really exist out there. Like if you look for organ meat cookbooks, there's like a handful,
Yeah.
and many of them are like from classically trained French or Italian chefs, right? Like I'd get one of these books and I'd open it up and it's like, here's how you make a stuffed rabbit's liver. And it's like, this isn't accessible to people, right? Like we need to create something for beginners. And I was a beginner. Like I don't have a background in cooking, or, I'm not particularly skilled really in that area. I taught myself. So I figured, if I could benefit from this, if I could learn while I'm doing this, and maybe some other people could benefit too. And I really found through the process of writing and publishing this book that there's a bigger audience for it than I thought, that I wasn't really even taking into account, like farmers, hunters, people from, of course, every other culture were coming out of the woodwork saying, of course, this is the way that we've always eaten. It's really just like a very like North American popular culture thing, that this is seen as exotic or weird. So it's been a really, really cool process. It was a really fun learning experience for me. And, I tell people, if you didn't grow up eating this way and it's uncomfortable for you, that's kind of not an excuse, because I'm in the same boat. And, I had to go through the process of like going to butchers and farmers markets and asking for cow tongues and brains. And I had to deal with that discomfort, but it was part of the process for me. I'm eating this food, I'm benefiting from it. I want to embrace the discomfort and learn more about it. And it kind of takes away some of the fear and some of the discomfort when you're sort of, you face it and you deal with it head on, and then you learn how like actually delicious and beneficial it is. And it's been a really, really cool process and really fun. And it makes me really happy when people reach out to me and say, I've been struggling with health issues and I was scared and I didn't know how to start. And then I saw your book and it was so easy. And I made chicken hearts the other day, or I made this liver mousse and it was actually good. And it just
Yeah.
really makes my day. So it's been really fun.
Well, kidney is, in mine, I talk about histamine all the time, and,
Mhm.
eating kidney or taking in a supplement, whatever, however you do it, it helps with breaking down histamine. So there are so many benefits to organ meat. So if you had to start, like, tell someone who's listening and they're like, no way, what would you say? What is the easiest organ to start with?
I mean, people who say no way, I'm like, just somebody in your life, like sneak it into your food when you don't know. I know that's not the most ethical thing, but I'm like, if I could get away with this and people wouldn't get mad at me, I would sneak so much organ meat into my family's food.
I
And
do.
there are, right? And there are lots of recipes in the book where you can do that. You can make your meatballs or your burgers or your whatever, and you just kind of put just enough. You're like basically fortifying something that you
Yeah.
already eat with something. And if you can do it in the right ratio, you're not really tasting a difference. You're just getting something that's healthier. But there are a couple kind of like big things that I think make this easier. The first thing I would say is if you're tentatively interested but intimidated and scared, go to a restaurant where they specialize in this stuff and just order it. Like have a professional make it for you the first time. Like you go to a
Yeah.
French restaurant, you go to an Italian restaurant, go to a Mexican restaurant. Chances are they have something on the menu you may not have noticed. Like people just kind of don't see the things that they're not interested in. So this stuff is everywhere. There's tongue tacos and there's pho, there's foie gras, all that stuff. Have a
Yeah.
professional who knows how to make it good, make it for you and just try it. So then you can see it's not that scary. It's actually very like common and these are delicacies in some places. So enjoy it that way, I would say first. And then if you're willing to kind of take the step and experiment at home, I always say start with like poultry organs first because they're smaller, they're easier to find, they're going to be much milder tasting. So if you make like a chicken liver pate versus like a
Hmm.
beef liver pate, it's going to be easier to get your taste buds around like as you get used to this stuff. So chicken, turkey, things like that. And I would also say maybe start with like everybody talks about liver, right? If you're like looking at sort of the organ meat folks out there who are talking about stuff on social media, it's all about like eating raw liver every day. And it's just all very intense and unnecessary, really.
Well, that's what people think when you say organ meats. They
This
think it's that.
this is another reason why I wanted to write this book, similar to like the muscle science for women. I feel like the animal protein world is very testosterone driven. And again, I have nothing against men out there just promoting stuff to their audience, whatever. But I feel like women who more than anybody could benefit from like iron rich, nutrient dense animal protein sources. They'll go online and look up the stuff and they see these like shirtless, red, angry people, talking about how you have to eat like raw liver in a field somewhere, and they're like, this isn't for me, right? Where I want people to maybe find me and be like, she looks like a relatively normal human and she's just making this food in her kitchen and it's not that big a deal. So anyway, what I would
She's
say
not
is
going to make me eat cow balls
if
raw.
you want to, that's okay, but you don't have
Yeah,
to.
go get
um, so
it.
another thing I would say is, it doesn't have to be liver. Liver is like the queen of organ meats in terms of its nutrient density, but heart is another really good option. And heart is a muscle meat. So it has a texture that's very familiar, right? Like if you already eat steak, if you eat things like that, because sometimes it's like with kidney and like sweetbreads and liver, it's a textural thing for people. They get kind of freaked out. But heart is very versatile. You can slice it and fry it in a pan. You can roast it. And it just tastes like a muscle meat. And it's still very, very nutrient dense. Like it's full of vitamin A, and CoQ10 and liver and like all this, protein. So maybe start with hearts because it's easier to prepare and cook and easier to eat, really. So those are kind of my main like tips for getting started.
And long story short, get your book
That too,
because
because it
you
helps.
break
Yeah.
it all down and you give a lot of, great recipes on how to do this. And it makes it so much less intimidating. And then you're going to get all the benefits and know how to do it right.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So,
I wanted people to like be able to read the book. Like it's teaching you stuff. It's not just
yeah.
like you open page one, and it's like make a heart salad. It's like, let's talk about organ meats and how you prepare them and how you source them and how you find them and how other cultures have typically prepared them. And like, let's just get comfortable before we dive in.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's
Thank you.
it's a very easy read too. It's good. So what about, toxins in the liver? So I know that people are going to ask that question. Why would I eat a liver if toxins are run through the liver?
Yeah, it's a very common question. I mean, I get it. It's a good one, but ultimately the function of the liver is a filter. It's not a storage
Right.
space. So it doesn't actually store toxins. It filters them. So if you're actually really concerned about the toxins that you might be ingesting from an animal, unfortunately, the bad news is you probably just want to not eat the fat or the fattier cuts of an animal, which of course, as we know, are the more delicious
They sure
cuts of an
are.
animal. But with human beings and with animals, we actually store toxins in our fat cells, right? In our fat tissue.
Right.
So it's just kind of not an issue. It's if it's a healthy animal, it's the liver is filtering toxins out, and then they're excreted and they're removed from the body. So it's kind of just understanding the biology of it. It's not holding the toxins, so you're good to go.
What do you eat in a day?
Oh man. I mean, a lot. I'm still trying. I'm still trying to actually like recalibrate. I know this is like starting to sound like a broken record, which means I need to get my stuff together. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but
You
need to get
can.
my shit together because my kid is almost 2 and I feel like I'm still eating the way I was eating when I was like making a baby and breastfeeding, which is to say a lot more food. I've been used to now eating a lot more food because
Mhm.
I was burning so many calories, I was working so hard, but I guess the easy answer to this is similar to you. I base every meal around protein. Protein is
Yeah.
the most important part of my day nutritionally. And it's really, I think, what has saved me over the last few years. We all know we've all been through a global pandemic where people's gyms were shut down, your lifestyle completely changed overnight. Then I got pregnant and had a kid. Like prior to the pandemic, my life was completely different. I was one of those like in the gym 5 days a week, working out all the time, like really kind of crushing that. And my entire life changed overnight. I had no gym. I got pregnant. I couldn't work out the same way, whatever. And I really feel like my diet of just, again, hammering home, like just eat your nutrient dense animal protein saved muscle, saved health, like helped with my pregnancy. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what my experience was. So, eggs, so many eggs all day, every day. Breakfast might be eggs and avocado, maybe a protein shake, something like that. And then lunch and dinner is kind of just the same stuff. Like I'm just sort of like meal prepping, like steaks, ground beef, ground turkey, fish. I recently moved to the East Coast, so I'm really close to a lot of good seafood. So I've been eating a lot of like shellfish, oysters, mussels, clams, just a ton of fish in general. I typically tend to be more of a red meat person, but it's like, I'm here, I'm trying to eat what's local and what's
Yeah.
good. I am not particularly low carb. I mean, I don't even know what you would quantify as low carb anymore. I was prior to getting pregnant more on the like low carb side of things, but I was never keto. I was never like uber zero low carb. I just feel like, again, the question I get a lot from clients about like, can I be keto and can I breastfeed on keto and can I do this and do that and have zero carbs? It's kind of like, why, right? Like, what's the purpose? Let's not make things harder for ourselves. There are some people who have a hard time tolerating a lot of carb sources and things like
Yeah.
that. But at the end of the day, for me, it's really about, and this is what makes eating healthy so difficult. It's like simple on paper, but what's so difficult in reality is that you need to figure out what your ideal diet looks like. I can tell you exactly what I eat, and it's not necessarily going to work for you. There are
Yep.
basic tenets, right? Like eat enough protein, so important. And then maybe you're somebody who likes a bit more fat. Like I tend to eat pretty like high protein, high fat, moderate carb. And then if I,
Same.
right. And then if I like want to maybe lean out a little bit, lose a couple pounds, I generally will take from the carbs first, then bring the fat down a little bit. I never mess with the protein. There's no reason
Mm-mm.
to. So that's it. I mean, I have a sweet tooth. Like I have an ice cream maker. I make high protein ice cream. I make like paleo, I'm using air quotes here, like baked goods and stuff. Like basically, I still want to enjoy life and I still want to eat things that are delicious. I'm just always trying to either make them at home so I know what's in them, infuse more protein or healthy ingredients into everything, because I'm not the person who's going to tell you you can never eat desserts or delicious food again.
Yeah.
It's sort of more like, let's be mindful, let's make it worth it. And when we can, let's still make it work for us, right? Like if I can have ice cream that I make at home that has 30 grams of protein per serving and doesn't make me feel like I barely ate anything after I just
Or
crushed a
like you're
cake
going
of
to
it,
crash.
or that, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, because at the end of the day, like this is something that's kind of unpopular, maybe just with my clients, but like we're adults. And so the harsh reality of it is that we can't eat every meal like it's the most delicious, amazing thing. Like we're not children who get to like eat delicious treats all the time. Like you need to eat for fuel first. We should
Yeah.
enjoy our food. I don't want your diet to be this like unsustainable, miserable chore, right? Like food is a pleasure and we should enjoy it, but we also need to like think of our food as fueling our bodies and our goals first. How do we accomplish that? And then let's
Right.
like add some pleasure into it. So a lot of times my diet is super boring and it's like pretty monotonous. It's like the same kind of sweet potato, rice, ground meat, whatever, like the same kind of stuff over and over again, a little bit of vegetables thrown in here and there. I'm not super high vegetable. I eat some. I don't typically have a lot of like desire or space for it. But yeah, that's it, protein first, unprocessed mostly, and then find some fun in it when you can.
Yeah, that's how I am. I mean, I'm usually kind of in a hurry, so I don't care what I eat. I just want to make sure I'm going to feel well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like protein. And then what else am I going to do with that protein? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then, there are times, especially if I'm like with people or entertaining, that I might care more about the way it tastes or, whatever. And I don't ever feel like I'm depriving myself ever, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just because I love protein. I always have. I've always thrived on protein.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been number one in what I'm eating. And literally if I'm going to just take a couple bites of something because I'm rushing through, I'm going to grab a couple bites of protein
Yeah.
because I know it's what's going to make me feel well. It's going to help support my blood sugar, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So
In your
yeah.
practice, do you find it common at all that there are women or individuals who do not thrive on like moderate to high protein? Like are there some people, because of their, medical conditions or whatever they're dealing with, that like if they eat more than, the minimum daily recommended, servings of protein, that they actually have a hard time with it?
Occasionally, some people, because the red meat's usually aged with histamine issues,
Right.
they can't do red, but
Right.
plenty
Mm-hmm.
can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also about leftovers, you know what I mean? So it's about convenience and that type of thing more than it is about actual protein bothering them.
Yeah.
I do have I work with some really, really, really sick people. So like some people who can't even eat, like they have to blend their food or
Right.
something like that. So yeah, someone like that, after their body not digesting protein for a long time, that might be a challenge or something like that. But what I see more of a problem is people having trouble digesting carbs, because most people that come to me have gut issues.
Right.
So then we heal their gut, or they heal their gut with our guidance, and they can usually tolerate anything. I mean, except for stuff that we just know is going to be inflammatory to the body and it's going to cause problems in the gut, like gluten. I don't ever
Right.
go, hey, you should go start eating gluten again because you healed your gut. Now you're going to get more gut issues if you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's actually more carbs that I see the problem with.
Okay, good. I'm gonna post that clip to my social media so people will get it, because that is a question I get. And I also wanted to just take a minute and thank you for some help that you gave me at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm knock on wood, but I have always been really fortunate that like I don't really have any food sensitivities that I'm aware of or that I've ever noticed, and I can kind of eat anything, whatever. And at the beginning of the pandemic, for the first time ever, I was having what I eventually discovered to be histamine issues, right? So I was like breaking out in hives. I was having all these, and I think it probably was like my bucket was full because there was some
Yeah.
stress things happening, whatever. But I talked to you and you gave me some advice and you gave me some resources. And, I had learned for the first time ever, and I'm like more than a decade into my sort of nutrition learning experience, that a lot of what we consider to be superfoods, like the healthiest foods on the planet, are super high histamine. And I literally was like looking at my diet and I'm like, my entire diet is just like super high
Yeah.
histamine foods. And of course I'm thinking, there's no way that these hives are because of what I'm eating, because I eat this every day. It's
Yeah.
super healthy. I'm talking bone broth. I'm talking avocado, fermented foods, all this stuff. And I realized that it was partly diet and then some of these other factors. And but anyway, you helped me a lot, because it was like I never have skin issues, I never have digestive issues, I never have issues with what I'm eating, and all of a sudden, like, I'm breaking out in hives. I'm like, what the hell is happening to
Well,
me?
that's scary.
It
It's scary
is.
when you start breaking out in hives, but yeah. And what I always, probably what I told you and what I tell everyone else is, let's cut the high histamine foods and see what else is going on. Why are you having an issue breaking down the histamine right now when you didn't before?
Right.
And post COVID, whoa, I mean, so many people have histamine intolerance, and I mean, my practice got so busy over COVID because I'm virtual, and post COVID, because of it was either post vaccine or post virus, one or the other. They were noticing that they were getting things like hives. Plus, I think it was a really stressful time for everybody. So maybe that was like
Yes.
your situation, like that bucket gets full with things like stress, nutrient deficiencies, or hormone imbalance, or gut issues. Then you can't break down histamine, and then those foods start to give you an issue. So,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
can definitely go away, because I'm sure right now you're fine. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. It took me a minute, and it made me a little bit sad, but it's also kind of like a humbling experience too, because it shows, and like going back to what I was saying about like anybody who tells you like eat exactly ABC or else you're stupid and this is the way to health, is like
yeah,
run from that person, because it is too bio individual. There are absolutely like basic principles that work for most people, but at that time, my very healthy diet was not serving me. Like, there are still
yeah.
healthy things I could have eaten, but it was just like a good kind of reminder to me that like things evolve, things change. Your body's going to need different things at different times. You have to be able to be adaptable and like pay attention to these things and understand and make changes when you need to. And I did, and it was all sorted out, and it hasn't been an issue since, but it was a learning experience for sure. But thank you for being a part of that, because I was thinking like, okay, hives, I know it's a histamine, but okay, I'm just going to talk
Yeah.
to Becky because I don't know what the hell's going on. But
Yeah.
it all got worked out.
Looking for more freebies and resources? Head over to healthbabes.com to get your free liver support guide. We all know and are learning that supporting your liver is so important for so many things when it comes to health. It's a master regulator, metabolizer, detoxifier. Supporting the body's natural detox pathways is important for overall health and well-being. And that's one thing that me and Beck have found out working with so many patients throughout the years. Once you really start working on your detox pathways, you start to see a lot of things unfold and other things start to get better, right? And so over at healthbabes.com, you can also find a full list of our favorite trusted food, beauty, and health products. Use HealthBabes50 code at checkout for any of our popular at-home health courses. Again, you can find our free liver guide and health courses at healthbabes.com.
I'm glad to hear that, because people, that's probably the number one question I get. Do I have to eat like this forever? And I'm like, probably not.
Right.
Maybe, it depends what you have going on. Most people, no, you don't.
Right.
And you might have to one day do it again. and then it will settle down and then you won't have to. So, well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's good for people to know. Cause a lot of people that listen to this are, they found us because of histamine. So any little
absolutely.
pearl. Well, can you tell us again, the name of your program, the name of your book, and then you have a new book, Carnivore-ish. So can you tell us a little bit about that book too? So, and then where people can find you?
Yeah. So Carnivore-ish is the newer one. I co-wrote that one with a good friend of mine. She's a trained chef and a recipe developer in New York. Her name's Beth Lipton, and she's amazing. And she's very similar to us, just another woman out there trying to build muscle and eat protein. And our goal with this book really was like, we wanted a book in the healthy food section of the bookstore that didn't just have a giant salad on it. Like, again, with the gendered messaging for people, right? Like there are plenty of, I don't know, barbecue cookbooks out there, and they're always very obviously targeted to men. And like, you can tell by the color scheme and you can tell by like the words that they use. And then healthy cookbooks are almost exclusively plant-based, plant-forward, vegetarian, vegan. Those words have become synonymous with health. And I'm not saying that people can't enjoy a healthy vegetarian diet. It's not for me. Some people, perhaps, high plant food diets, great if you like it. But I think that this sort of like equating only vegetables with health is problematic, and especially for women. And we are suffering as a result of it. And it's like, all I want to do is create a book that is like well-rounded, protein-centric meals that take away some of the stigma of like a plate of steak is manly or too heavy for a woman to eat, or it's like this indulgence, like I go out to dinner with my girlfriends and they're like, I'm going to be bad, I'm going to order a steak. And I'm like, that's a healthy thing to eat. Like, I don't get it. So that was really our goal. And we called it Carnivore-ish because it's sort of like a cheeky play on like, look, we just like to eat good, delicious, whole food meals that happen to have a lot of animal protein in them. And if that's what we called the book, no one would buy it. So we, put a cute title on it. And it is kind of a good descriptor of how we eat, and it was a really, really fun process. And it makes me happy to think that maybe we are making something again more accessible for, as we know, women are still the majority of the sort of gatekeepers in the house for buying groceries, meal planning, making meals for their families and for their kids and stuff like that. And to try to just, again, educate and provide more easy, delicious options for people that make you not feel guilty about eating protein with your salad,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
such a strange concept to me.
It really is. But I mean, it's infuriating. Go to a bookstore. If anybody actually goes to bookstores anymore, go to a bookstore and go to the healthy cookbook section. And it's like just greenwashed, it's just plant-based, plant this, plant that. And I'm not demonizing plants at all. I'm just saying there's room and it should really be at the forefront. Because again, if we're talking just nutrient density, if we're talking bioavailable nutrients, if we're talking health promoting foods, animal protein is that, and it's not being treated that way. And so that's what we wanted to do with that book. So yeah, Carnivore-ish is the newer one. It Takes Guts is the organ meat one. And they're both available, wherever you want to buy books. And yeah, the program is Muscle Science for Women. And you were talking about a glute program. We actually our flagship program is called Muscle Science for Women. And it's a overall 12-week strength building program that comes with hours of education and additional resources. But we just launched a glutes workshop as well, because, we hear the feedback. That's what people want. Ladies want the glutes. And so again, what we wanted to do was create a program that gives the ladies what they want, but also provides like biomechanical, physiological, like education. So we're not just giving you a PDF of like, butt workouts. We're telling you like, here are the muscles involved. Here are how they work. Here is how you stimulate them properly. Here's how you put together a training program to actually stimulate and reach those muscles and grow them. So we're really proud of that too, because we're just trying to be like a step above, the basic like TikTok influencer. We want to teach you, because I feel like ultimately when you learn more about how these things work, you just feel more empowered. You feel like you get it more, and you're less like at the whim of, whatever hot person's PDF you just bought on the internet. You know what I mean? Like when you know, you will feel more comfortable going into the gym and like doing it and learning it and going through the process. So
and doing it with the right form, right? I mean, how many times do we see like it's bad and it's so dangerous when you're working with weights to do it at the wrong form.
I mean, it's dangerous at worst and it's a waste of your time at best, right? Like that's the thing. Like you go into the gym and you just see people and, you know, it's not cool to go up to strangers because I don't want strangers to come up to me and try to talk to me in the middle of a set, but it's heartbreaking, right? When you're just like, if people, because we're on autopilot. I mean, again, we're going off on a tangent here, but one of the things we talk about is like, and I'm guilty of it, but we go to the gym and people are like on their phones in between sets and they're just like thinking about how do I get through this workout so I can go on with the rest of my life. But busy women, right? Busy moms, people who don't have a lot of time to themselves. And you're investing in this way. You're taking this brief time, a couple times a week to go into the gym and do something good for yourself. And the whole time you're there, you're thinking about picking up the kid from this, getting the groceries, how am I going to get them to bed on time, all this stuff. And instead, if we could just take this 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever, and just put that down and put your mind where your muscle is and think about, like, be present and focus and think about the muscle you're trying to lift instead of how quick can I get to the last rep, you are going to have such a massive benefit and see so much more progress than, you know, the best program in the world given to you by the best butt in the world isn't going to do anything if your head isn't in it when you're at the gym, you know?
It's true. It's like a form of meditation. If you can really focus, it helps you because then you're not thinking about all those other things for that 30 minutes. And I love it. I mean, and it's so good for stress on top of all the other 20,000 benefits of working out.
And I mean, I know it's easier said than done. I get it. Like I'm still guilty of it too, but I know that the times when I can go in there and just have my mind in the right place and be like only focusing on myself and my workout in that moment, I have much better workouts and I feel better. And I'm probably more present the rest of the day with my kid or with whatever else I'm doing because I gave myself that time. Women especially have a really hard time giving themselves that time. And the faster we realize that we need it, because eventually we're going to burn out or freak out or be, you know, something bad's going to happen. Just give yourself just that time to just treat yourself well. And it's everyone's better off. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Grow Your Glutes workshop is also available. And I guess I can send you like the links for your show notes, but the best way to like learn more about it is I'm on Instagram at The Muscle Maven is my handle. And my website's just my name, ashleighvanhouten.com, but I'm very present on there. So if you have any questions or you want to learn more, you can just say hi to me there.
That's so nice of you.
Of course. I mean, listen, I'm trying to like be as pleasant as I can on social media because it's such an unpleasant place for the most part. I'm like, if I'm going to be on here, I'll just try to be a nice person, I guess.
No, that's good. Yeah. Well, definitely check her out. And I'll put all of your links in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. You got to come back on mine, by the way, because it's
I'm going to. Yeah.
And now that you're a pro, right? Now that it's not your first time anymore. We'll see where it goes.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And if you love this episode, please leave a review. It only takes a couple minutes. And you can find out more about us on drbeckycampbell.com. And you can follow us over at Instagram on @HealthBabesPodcast, @Dr. Becky Campbell, and @Dr. Crystal Hone. Have an amazing day.